thought I would make a little quick movie about how Heddles work on an Inkle loom. There seems to be a lot of confusion as to how best to make your Heddles, whether, the length of them, the type, that type of thing. So anyways, I wanted to show you some of the science behind why Heddles are so important. The Heddle is what allows you to lift and lower your warp so that you can then weave back and forth and make, beautiful bands, that type of thing. Now, what happens is the Heddles keep this upper warp stationary, so it doesn't move at all. So basically, the other part of the warp goes up and down through the Heddles. Now, as you can see on this loom, I would actually say that these Heddles are probably a little short. If this Heddle joint here, this section where these Heddles meet, was up here a little bit more, that would allow me to have more pull down area for my shuttle to go through that little triangle opening. It's called the shed in weaving terms. Now, this one's a little tight. See how it's kind of hard to push down to get a nice open shed? The upper shed is easy. I can push that all the way up to the bar and get a huge opening, a huge shed here for my shuttle to go through. So if I were to actually make these just a little longer, maybe about an inch, this loom would actually function wonderfully. A lot of times when you get a loom, if it doesn't come with instructions, say it comes off of eBay or buy it from a friend or Etsy, and there's no instructions, you might be unsure of how long the Heddle should be. Generally speaking, it's the distance between the Heddle peg and this top peg about halfway. Now, as you can see, this one isn't quite set up for that. But you have to remember too that the warp actually pulls the Heddles in a little bit. So even though you may measure between these 2 points and think, oh, I'm perfectly set, you might actually need to add just a little bit to make it really comfortable for weaving. A lot of looms are set up so that you can make your Heddles by tying from one rod to another rod. You're going to have to just play with that a little bit and just see what feels comfortable to you. Some people are fine with a small shed, and that's fine, especially if you have a small shuttle. It really comes down to preference and what really works best for the loom. Most looms are set up so that the Heddle actually, you make a loop between the Heddle rod and usually the top bar here. And then what you do is it makes a big loop, and then what you do is you double it. If you look at these, they're actually doubled around. See how that works exactly? It comes down around the Heddle bar and then catches on the other side. I like to do those. You can do just a string Heddle, that's just a loop, but you have to then also feed those onto your warp as you're warping your loom, and sometimes that's a little trickier. Either way it works, it's just you need to kind of measure and see what best works for you. And like I said, this loom here I really think would probably benefit from a Heddle that's maybe about an inch longer. And you just have to check. Each loom's going to be a little bit different. Here's a way to explain a little more about the science of Heddles. As you can see, these are the same exact Heddles that I have had on this loom when we first started to record. Sometimes as you weave, your Heddles are going to get pulled down, and then you'll notice what's going to happen is, oh, it's almost impossible to get a shed. I mean, look at that. These are the same exact Heddles, but yet if you were to push them way back here, all of a sudden you've got plenty of space. So you have to take that into consideration as well. Your Heddles are sort of a living, breathing thing a little bit, and they will adjust as you weave. I find it's always best to use a real strong cord when you're making a Heddle. My favorite cord is to use waxed linen, and you can find it in the beading department of any kind of craft stores. It's got a slight wax coating on it. It's a little tricky to tie a knot. You have to make a real big knot. But man, these last forever. They take a beating and they keep going. The only time I have any problem is if I tie the knot not tight enough. They might come out. But I have some Heddles that I've had for just ever and ever. So that's the best material. You can use rug warp, and you can use different kinds of material. Some people even use dental floss, which is kind of what waxed linen is, but I like the waxed linen myself. I hope that helps to kind of clear up a little bit of the mysteries of Heddles and the shed for weaving and how it works with an Inkle loom.